Hi, I'm Grant Blaisdell. Welcome to the Mr. Crypto Show, where we take a look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and the great talents that are coming out in the Web3 space. As usual, we have a great guest with us. Today, we have Ben Weiss, who's the CEO and founder of Flights, which is a company that has already done some great things in bringing Web3 into the consumer market, and is going to be doing even bigger and greater things as well. So welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me, Grant. Appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
I don't hear him.
You can't hear me?
Yep, there we go. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Grant. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So you know what, to start off, why don't you tell us real quick, kind of quickly your background, but really like what got you into this space, so to say.
Yeah, great question. So Web3 is a space where we can really empower people and internet users in a way that's so unprecedented through ownership. And it's something that I think is going to be an oncoming trend in the future of the internet and the way the internet's shaped. So it's a reason that I wanted to be in the space. And I really saw that NFTs were an entire new opportunity that was unprecedented compared to the previous crypto market, which there were issues with a coin taking over as being mass adopted because the governments wouldn't want to give up control over currency, and there was a fight there. Whereas NFTs can be easily integrated into many different types of businesses, and there's many different types of products that can be made with them without that type of disagreement between a governing body like that. So I got into Web3 because I thought there was great opportunity for privacy and for ownership over your digital self and digital products, and then NFTs really was the catalyst for what we're building now.
So you say for what we're building now. So what is your foray into this? So what are you actually doing in the space?
Yeah, so we're focused on combining tangible products with digital products, and we want to combine those two together so we can target the traditional consumer and have a Web3 included. So many projects in the space now, they've been kind of the opposite of that. They've been having a Web3 product that is they kind of can come with something physical down the road, and that's something that only caters towards the audience in the space, which is a couple million people. So we're trying to flip that model and target the traditional consumer with a tangible product, even potentially include a Web 2 integrated with that, and also have a Web 3. So it's something that bridges all markets and enables that simplicity for the traditional consumer so they can come and join Web 3 in a simple and seamless way, and then actually become a user in the space, because most of these people have heard about them, have heard about Web 3, but they aren't able to yet enter. And the tangibility has been a key aspect that is, we believe, has hurt that.
So give us one of those cases, with
So
the,
we're fractionalizing. Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
we're fractionalizing a 3,000-year-old Greek gold mask artifact. There's five in the world. It's the only one in private hands. And essentially, what we're doing is we're enabling people who own the NFTs to actually have a piece of the gold mask. And you also get the access to come to specific events depending on what tier you're in. So now people can't say, "Oh, well, what's this NFT? It's just some made-up digital thing." It's no, Grant. Like, it's a real. You're getting real ownership over a 3,000-year-old gold mask artifact, which is incredibly rare and has a 97.5% gold purity. So there is a tangible backing to that. That's an example of what I was mentioning earlier.
Okay, cool. And we know each other through some collaborative stuff, but
Yeah.
a lot of people have been excited by some of the stuff you've done previously around fashion, and you were talking about, okay, integrating these assets, not just creating like a Web3 twin, but also integrating these assets into Web2 environments, et cetera. So could you give us kind of an example of how those three would kind of overlap?
Yeah. So many people know me from the Next Gens project, which I'm creating a digital and physical sneaker line with the rapper Little Dirk. And the premise is exactly the same as mentioned before with the gold mask. So we're trying to enable the traditional consumer, Dirk's audience, to be able to actually come into the space through getting a physical shoe and also having a digital version. And the digital version can be implemented into Web 2 or Web 3. So you can have a shoe that is implemented into video games and being worn on avatars in games. So you can walk around with that shoe on you, and then also have the physical version so you can wear it on yourself and have an NFT, which enables you to have unprecedented access to the talent. And so that was like our proof of concept. And we've been working on that, got a lot of traction for the project. Forbes put us on their main social page. We did the Nelk Boys podcast, has I think about 3.5 million views. So, there is an interest in that. And it's something that if you look at the numbers, Grant, now, half of the people, half of the amount of money is being spent on digital fashion as physical fashion. And we're in this state right now where, there's about 3 billion people out there gaming. And that's almost the same amount of internet users in the world. So it's a huge total market. I mean, Fortnite alone has the same amount of users as the entire United States, basically. It's about 30 million off. That's 300 million people that are there playing this game and are in this entire almost like new country. And so that digital landscape for Web 2 is something that people understand, and it makes it easier for them to port over to become a Web 3 user because it's something that they're used to already and they understand that digital forefront. So we're trying to put the sneaker into video games and have it physically as well, which are markets people know, and then also to integrate the Web3 and start to make them understand what it is through something that they're used to without changing buyer behavior and consumer awareness.
Obviously, the tech isn't yet there to where that integration of your physical with the digital twin integrated into the gaming experience or environment. That's not really a seamless process yet. But when it is a much more seamless process, do you see that as just kind of a standard that consumer brands and wares take, that you're not only getting the physical, but you're getting some digital twin that's integratable into, your digital worlds and gaming experiences?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of brands that will adopt that, and I see that being the thing that a lot of brands do. But Grant, brands are like currently doing this now. Like Nike released a Jordan shoe digitally and physically. They didn't do it at the same time, but they took the same silhouette and put it in the game. But like a lot of brands are missing the aspect that these games were designed because they're not reality. People want to play video games because they can do things they can't do themselves with their physical form, right? So they go to these games because they can fly and they can ride in jetpacks and do crazy things. And the shoes need to be designed for that. They need to take that into account, and that's something that I think is a trend we're going to start, and with this project, with whatever we do, and it's something that I think a lot of brands will go soon and follow. But it really is more than that. It's like you said, technology is getting there. It's not even fully there yet. Like we're all jumping on Web3, like Web3 is the future, but Web2 like hasn't even fully been taken advantage of in terms of digital and physical integrations. And we're excited to see what can even happen there as well, because that's what people are used to.
So do you think that eventually this gaming environment will, because skins, et cetera, that's not a new concept, right? And there are people that have been making quite a bit of money doing skins across different sort of environments in some manner. But it's never really beneficial. It's never been actually like a controlled asset in that sort of sense that you can move around independently. So do you see, I mean, this is maybe a little outside of your scope, but do you see a point to where, and I think this is what people see with the metaverse, where Web3 eventually just becomes like this underlying kind of, like I say, economic operating system for all these digital assets within the gaming world? Or is that going to be like, do you think it's more what we're talking about, where individual items that are brought in are just integratable in Web3? Do you get my question?
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's one of you literally like have one of the best points there, Grant. Like it's so important to recognize. So with Web 2, there's a lot that's going to be still developed, I believe, with assets themselves and ownership over assets. I think that a lot can still be done there, and it's really overlooked, because everyone thinks Web 3 is ownership over a digital asset, which is true, yes, but there's still a lot you can do with Web 3 with owning an asset and making it interoperable and potentially even taking that asset offline. So that's something I think that can be developed much more for Web 2. I think with Web 3 overall, that is something that Web 3 can really bring to the table. But there's kind of a weird thing, Grant, where the gaming industry has really been against Web 3, when you would think Web 3 would actually be the best use case for gaming, because play to earn, once you play a game with play to earn and you actually are earning money to play, why would you play any other game if the game's like a AAA, shooter or something that people are, like? So it's this weird like situation we're in right now where the gaming industry is kind of like, I don't know if we like this, but it happens to have probably the best use case because you actually own your assets. They can appreciate in value. You can even make royalties as a creator from them. I mean, you would think that would have mass adoption there, but I think it's just time. I think that it will change.
You think there's any elements of control behind that, in the sense of they kind of become non-custodial slash owner? Because like at the end of the day, the game owns the assets, right? Like you can
Right.
sell them or whatever, but it's controlled technically by the game. They can shut it off at any point if they want for you. Do you think that's kind of their worry? Because I think that's a lot of kind of like industries or regulatory bodies worries, at least initially, is that they worry about control. But you know, I have a background in this, and what some of them eventually realize is that actually you can have more control than ever if you know, approach it appropriately. So why do you think they have that hesitancy?
Yeah, so I think that they have that hesitancy because, like you mentioned, control is one thing. I also think it's something sometimes like what's new like this, and it isn't fully like it isn't necessarily ready for mass adoption yet, like Web3. You know, like we want it to be mass adopted, but you know, the current blockchains, Grant, like they're not handling transactions like yes, okay, we talk about speed. Maybe some of them are faster than like Mastercard and can do more transactions, but they're not built to scale like Mastercard or like Visa. You know, they're not built like that yet. Like yes, like we want them to surpass that. You know, the people who are have the ethos of Web3, but they're not ready to be there, and you know, and that has to be ready. So I think that's one thing, one reason why. I think control is another aspect. I think gaming companies want control over what they can produce, but I think that if they come out there and actually create their own blockchains and they are in control in terms of with that may be the solution. You know, that will probably not. It's not necessarily in line with Web3. You know, with some of the hardcore Web3 people, and it's not necessarily in line with some of the hardcore Web2 people, but I think that could be a nice hybrid solution where they create their own blockchains and then assets are stored in their own blockchains, and you know, they have more control like that. But it makes the most sense once it's ready, and I just don't think it's ready yet, but it will get there with more testing.
So you have the mask thing happening. You have
Yeah.
next gens that's already kind of started, and if there's any sort of next milestones or things happening, please tell us right now. Other
Sure.
than so if you want to say something around that, please do. But I was going to ask, you know, what other things you have coming up generally.
Yeah, so we're working on the prototype for the shoe, for Dirk's shoe. It takes time. You know, it can take like a year, 2 years to make a physical sneaker at a top brand. So we're doing this with Dirk, and it's his own brand. So it takes, you know, it's taking time, but we're doing pretty well, and we're just finalizing the prototype now. You know, at one place, you know, we're just looking to do a really great job on that before we actually roll it out to the consumer. You know, part of the idea I had early on, Grant, with creating Dirk Shoe was to do the physical and virtual, not only because it's a gateway to people outside the space, but because if the market changes, which at the time we were at the peak market in February of this year, the market changes, you have a physical product you can sell to anybody. People are used to buying a shoe. And if that shoe's for big artists like Dirk, you know, it's a nice looking shoe. It's not just like something traditional, it's unique. You could sell that, you know, even if Web3 is up or down. So the timing, you know, couldn't work out better for us, you know, but of course we love for the market to be better. But we're just working on the prototype and just trying to make it, you know, as best possible quality as we can so we can deliver the best product.
So is that NFT that's tied to it, it's actually kind of decoupled in that way, right? So I sell my physical shoe, but the NFT doesn't move along with it. The NFT kind of has its own sort of life and utility.
Yeah, it's decoupled for right now. I think that, and I actually just did a panel on at DecentralCon in Miami during our Basel week about this. It's an interesting question. You know, can you tie them together, and can you tie them together in a way that you know the traditional consumer can go and resell the product and it actually provides authentication value. There's a lot that can be done there. I don't think we just want to put that in a product just yet without having, you know, without potentially having some sort of like authenticated resell aspect with it, because I think that's one of the biggest problems we could solve. So we haven't done anything by linking them, but there will be something where like one, you know, you can't do one with have one without the other, you know, something to that nature once we finalize the release, but nothing with linking yet. I think that's something that we will explore in the future.
Yeah, you said you're kind of, this is kind of a case in a way that will set
Yeah.
a standard or a foundation for some other things that are happening. Do you have anything else down the pipeline that you care to mention, or are you guys obviously focused on executing these two things really well?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things in the pipeline. I can't disclose all of it yet, but one of which is that we're working on a new type of NFT platform. And this platform is going to enable Web3 to go to the masses. Like, we truly believe that because it's the simplest purchasing experience and the simplest utilization of utility. in a very similar manner to a ticket. So what we're trying to do is actually enable anyone who's outside the space to come and buy an NFT and use an NFT in the same way they're used to with buying a ticket, except these are for multi-use access passes. So essentially you could say fan clubs or brand experience clubs, etc. So we want to just democratize the ability for people to actually join the space and utilize it in the same way as a Web 2 experience would provide, but powered by Web 3 technology. I think that that's the best way for the industry to scale right now. Web 2 experiences powered by Web 3 tech.
So is this more that it's a product that enables these brands, companies, events, et cetera, to launch kind of their own sales funnels digitally using it? Or is it literally just like a big marketplace where you land on it and it's loads of events and loads of different sort of things?
So it's more of a marketplace, but we also, as a company, we offer a service where we can build out projects if they're really unique and special and provide real value and have that long-term commitment to customers. We will build those out for people and we can put them on the platform as well. We're not just trying to be like every other platform, where you have a cool platform, you put out a bunch of projects and you get customer traction. Like, we're focused on how do we actually enable the hundreds of millions, Grant, it's probably hundreds of millions of people at this point that have heard about NFTs to actually get into the space and be able to buy something that they find value in, of whether it's their favorite brand, favorite creator, or just a new project, and actually be able to utilize it and to be able to own it and understand what it is without all the hurdles that are commonly present. I mean, if you look at OpenSea now and you want to go and buy an NFT, it could be a 20-minute process. You're talking about connecting a wallet. First, you have to have a wallet, connect a wallet, buy cryptocurrency. Doesn't always work to connect. 80% of NFTs on there were one time reported as frauds because there was no authentication process. You could just put anything on the platform. So, we're looking to solve a lot of those problems that are out there and actually make a super simple and seamless website experience for people to actually onboard the space that are outside the space and enable them to utilize the benefits of Web3 that we all love.
Two things to that. Do they need, you said there's hundreds of millions of people who heard about NFTs and we want to integrate them.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is do they need to know, care, or understand what an NFT is or works to reap the benefits or usage of it? I think that's kind of the question a lot of people miss, which is who cares?
That's the big question, Grant. Like, people don't need to know what Web3 is to benefit from Web3. And this is a common misconception in the space right now, where a lot of people think like, okay, well, Web3, like, we want to have users control their data. It's like, users care about that, but only to an extent. And it doesn't need to be super invasive for them to be involved with that process. You can have a Web3 experience that's, it's in the back end, and it's really Web2 in the front. And you have the ethos that everybody wants with Web3, where users control the content, etc. But the Web2 experience is something that they're used to and can actually use. Like, we're in the age of Amazon, Grant. It can't take 20 minutes for someone to go and buy an NFT on OpenSea, or just buy an NFT in general. Like, it can't scale like that. It's impossible.
Yeah, and to like the authenticity sort of thing, there's something I called for years the genesis problem in blockchain, which is, if it's wrong, if it's crap going in, it's generally crap all the way through, right? So, you have to have certain, unfortunately, what's probably going to end up happening, and this is, I was with you at Art Basel and in Miami,
Yeah.
and, I met some, let's say, higher end people or organizations in the art world that are working towards building out Web3 based products around this. And one is it's a company that's a collaboration of Art Basel, a bunch of big crypto companies and art organizations to create a back-end product, actually. But my bigger point towards that is that at the end of the day, the certifier is a gallery. There has to be some point of authority there that stamps off on it, which goes against a lot of, I think the ideological bend of a lot of people in Web3 and crypto. But even, on the Copernic Space platform for like space assets, we have a filtration process where, we verify whether these entities have the rights and capabilities to offer these things in the first place before it even goes on the marketplace for the commercial market to consume. So my point to that is, do you really see, outside of some outer cases of like DEXs and things like that, which are going to fall under some sort of regulatory scheme eventually anyways, Do you see anything that will ever really be just like pure open like that without there being some sort of administrator, verifier, someone who's putting their stamp on this product? Like just like with the next gen shoes, you know, like you said, coupling the NFT with the physical shoe so that if you buy the physical shoe, it has to have this NFT that's officially released, you know, minted by this entity, right, within these dates, for example.
Yeah. So, what you guys are doing with Copernic Space, like in terms of verifying what the collection is before it goes on, is so important. And I think it's like that's something that has to be there now. In terms of an entirely open-ended, entirely open platform where essentially anything, it's just like there's no, group of people, I guess, in charge, or no one central point. I would say that is a better way to say it. That's possible, but only once AI progresses much more. I think we can have really good filtration systems in terms of what projects are frauds, what are not, and AI can vet that, and you can have an entirely open platform. But the question is, Greg, do we really need an entirely like self-governed, open platform? Like, do we need that? And I'm not sure we do. And even the other question is, does the traditional consumer even care about that? Like, we've wanted to go so far away from some of this the way that Web 2 companies have been built with centralized data, et cetera, like the whole industry does. But it's like, how much does that matter, and how far do we need to go? Like there's different levels as to how far is needed to go, and how much is important, and how much that affects the consumer experience is something that's in balance with those questions. So I think it's all being established because the industry is so new, but I think it's all very exciting. And right now, a lot of the solutions that are there, are solutions that make sense for where we are. I think OpenSea is a good solution for right now. I'm sure that they'll make changes, et cetera, and there's a lot of other platforms, but we're at a phase where there's going to be a transition in this industry, and the industry will have to produce a mainstream product that is something that really utilizes the benefits of Web3. I think Copernic Space it has a great initiative in that front with with utilizing Web3 in space and trying to create a space platform, a space economy with that. I think there's a lot of initiatives that need to be done, like like you're doing, Grant, now, that can help enable Web3 to go to the masses, and that needs to happen now. Like we've had Bitcoin since 2009. Like, let's bring this to the masses.
Uh, just we have a few minutes left, but you always bring up good points that lead me um, down other roads, which is like we brought up like that central control. So like, do you see DAOs actually being a thing in any sort of larger application? Because like I see DAOs working in smaller environments, right? But I think it's a problem of scale as well. Also, like, like, is that sort of structure good? Like giving everybody an equal voice, for example, is that like really a good thing? I was talking to a musician who's in a known band from out here in Central Europe, and we're talking about, yeah, well, bands can't be democracies, right? Like there has to be some kind of like almost monarchical position towards it. Otherwise, all the votes are equal, therefore no one's going to come to a good, conclusion or decision. So do you see DAOs as like actually being a thing in that sort of scale where you have this kind of distributed governance, or once again, are we going to get back to some sort of authority?
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly the point. Like, I'm trying to make. I think DAOs themselves are, it's like rudimentary, right, compared to where we can go. And all industries have to start. Everything has to start somewhere, right? So DAOs are like a nice way of having a governance that's controlled by many people. But there's serious downsides to DAOs. Like, for example, if you have like an immediate issue and you don't have a central person that's in charge of that, and it's a decision maker, there could be a major issue. Like, let's say there's an issue and the DAO's controlling an automotive company, and there's a problem with for the production line, and there's a safety issue. Well, if you need 100,000 people to vote on that, that's a serious problem. So having a central point of contact and somebody that's in charge of an entity is important. And it's kind of like what I was saying before, where Web3 wants to just almost go the complete extreme away from Web 2, where there actually just needs to be like almost a hybrid solution where you have like somebody in charge, and then you also have a DAO that like acts as like a board or an advisory board, etc. And guides decisions. So that solution, I think DAOs themselves are here to stay. I think they're going to grow, and I think they're going to really get more mature in terms of what decisions matter for a DAO to be in control over, and how that how the new form of corporate governance or even just project governance works with DAOs. is something that's going to evolve a lot.
Cool. Yeah, I generally agree around that. Do you have, kind of sign us off, tell the people how to find you, any dates of things to expect, any launches, etc. Give the people some place to connect.
Yeah, so if you want to connect, just go to flights.com, FLGHTX.com. That's a good place. And I think in terms of future releases, like we're still, figuring stuff out right now. We're in the planning stages more, so we don't have anything, to talk about yet. But I definitely will keep you updated, on that. But the platform is something we're really like diving full in on and developing, and it's something that we're excited to launch that soon. And I think that that's something that can actually enable anybody outside the space to get in. And there's so much that can be built with that grant. Like Web3 can, like Web3 for the masses. You know how many more creators there'll be. You know how many more projects there'll be. More innovative ideas. Like that's what we're really excited to start.
You see, I don't know if you remember when Kickstarter came in, and that was supposed to be a big revolution for creators. So I guess last question is, do you see this kind of the integration of this tech, do you see it doing something bigger for creators than kind of Web was able to achieve based off its promises? Because a lot of the promises of Web kind of didn't pan out in that sort of case. So do you see Web3 as kind of like it's like a missing piece in that?
So I do. I see Web3 as a missing piece. I don't see Web3 fully being activated till we have the metaverse, and not the metaverse in the traditional sense that we're hearing now with like digital communities, or like the headset and like Ready Player One. Like once we have this this metaverse where it's this virtual world, I think that digital asset ownership and digital asset creation and will breed an entire new form of creators. And we've seen this like with social networks. New social network pops up, like TikTok, whole new class of creators because there's a new type of content medium. I think that that's what NFTs have the power to do. I think right now we're in the infancy, and projects should be built with that in mind to be able to integrate into the future metaverse, and we will get there, and there will be an entire new creator class that happens. Pretty confident.
All right, I'm gonna stop before we keep going because it can keep going. So I wanna thank you, Ben, for being here and enlightening the people with some, let's say, kind of more real reality check and how this tech is going to be brought to consumers overall. And I'll be chatting with you later. So thanks once again for joining us, Ben, and we'll be seeing you again.
Thanks for having me, Grant. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always good to catch up with you.
Likewise, buddy. See you soon.